Nonverbal communication is one of the biggest ways that we use communication in general. An article by Jean Segal, a therapist and author of psychology, explained that there are 5 main roles with body language. One is repetition, which if you repeat a verbal message, it shows a little bit more emphasis and power. Contradiction, which is when if someone's speaking, their message can contradict them and show that they're maybe not telling the truth. The next is substitution, which is where you substitute a facial expression, a body position, a hand gesture with a verbal message. Complementing is when you add or complement a verbal message. And accenting is when you accent a verbal message or underline it. And some of the ways on how to improve body language is by managing stress in a certain situation. Because if you're stressed, it's a lot harder to read people. The next is to develop emotional awareness, which is reading others, creating trust, and showing that you care. The next is to better read body language, which you just got to keep practicing at it. The next article is by Naz Bashidi, who is a CEO of Pranans, and they said that the key is to being mindful, which is how we inhabit and use the space that we are given. And to reinforce that, they use second conscious conversation to reinforce first conversation. And a way to do that is by being mindful in presence, which is often marketed as a stress-reducing technique, but it also goes hand in hand with mind-body unity, which in return creates mindfulness in motion. And the opportunity that they said to use to connect to people is to learn to understand people. How are they feeling? And what any certain small little things that can help convey how they're feeling so that way you can approach in the correct way. And the next is learn to get out of that digital toolbox, which is you just have to keep doing face-to-face conversation because it creates more of a connection with people than digital communication does. The third article was by Raymond H. Hall, who is a professor of communication science and disorders at Wichita University. And he said that most nonverbal communication is 70% of involvement, which leaves only 30 verbal. And he had this 2-minute rule that a lot of people use in examinations where attendees would sit in a room and the patients would come walking in. They would be judging the way they walked in, their manner of dress, their eye contact, whether they sit or stand, gestures, and how they speak. And they could determine appraisal within 2 minutes of just seeing just that. And the last article that I have sourced from was by Miriam Abos, who's a professor of psychology at University of Rhode Island. And she said that there's a study by Albert Mehrabian who said that the sole impact of verbal communication is only around 7%, leaving 93% of an impact of nonverbal communication. And one of the ways that they said that is most commonly used is facial expressions and gestures. And one of them is eye contact, which creates a more sense of intimacy and heightened emotion. And then touch, which plays a major part in communication in general with like a praise, and let's say your boss patted you on the shoulder to show that they praised you for doing a good job or having a great week. The emphasis on putting the hand on the shoulder increases the impact of the message that your boss might be trying to relay. And the terms that I used for my survey is haptics, which is touch, kinesics, which is posture and facial expressions, artifacts, which are personal objects used to reflect someone's personality, and environmental factors, which is the setting. Depending on the setting, could affect how you feel, how you act, how you, like, just your entire being. The first question was, if you're having a conversation with someone who's using hand gestures, what would you interpret about that person? And most of the answers were they're passionate, they're expressive in what they're talking about, they're angry, and they're just emotional. The next one was, what would you consider an artifact for you? Like your personal artifact. And some put my cat, my car, handwritten documents, my Bible, my wardrobe, and my grandmother's necklace. The third question was, if you step into a purple room that had all different shades of purple, lavender, dark purple, like everything, what would your emotion, like, what would be your emotion in that moment, and how would you be feeling? Some put happiness, mysterious, disgust, relaxed, and overwhelmed. The next question is, if you were speaking about an important topic, how would you want to seem trustworthy and knowledgeable using body language? And most put open body language, open posture, maintain eye contact, hand gestures, no crossing arms, and maybe a hand on the shoulder to emphasize the connection, and nodding your head in acknowledgement or agreement. The next question is, how does digital communication versus face-to-face communication differ in a work environment? And most said that digital communication is not clear, not very formal, and hinders connection and personal connection. Whether it's face-to-face conversation seems to convey more emotion, seems more personal, seems more formal or informal depending on how you wanted it to be. The next is noticing facials and body language. What would you see in expressions of a group of girls? And a lot put smiling, playing with hair, physical touch like hugging, laughing, and hand talk. If you're in a blue room with dark lighting, what would you be feeling and how would you act in that moment? And what would you smell? Like, what smell would best match that room? And for the emotion, people put excitement, sad, calm, scared, and uneasy. And for the smell, a lot put smell of rain, salt water, ocean, men's cologne, damp wood, and sandalwood. And the last question is, if you had to use nonverbal communication to best convey honesty, how would you go about it? And a lot put eye contact, soft hand gestures, physical touch, calm body language, and crossing your hands on your heart.